Anyway, hey, hello, hi, welcome to the Nonprofit Network. I'm Shelby Stokes.
Kelly Shempfield.
Polly here. Hey, we're on the air, gang.
Hey,
Thanks for being here.
Yes, we are. And today we are discussing the top 10 things you should consider doing as a bid spotter. Right?
Yeah, you should consider doing, or top 10 things you should do.
You should prioritize as a bid spotter.
Yeah, so from auctioneer standpoint, let's start at item number 1 and have you guys can just say it and then I'll correct you.
Okay, deal. All right.
Okay, what I will try to do is coordinate with the team. We got auctioneer, 2 bid spotters, and an MC. Mm-hmm. All right, you guys, let's get there at 4:30. Mm-hmm. And most of the time we'll either meet up in the parking garage or out in the parking lot if everybody gets there on time. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of everybody walking in together.
Yeah.
All of us walking in together. But that probably happens 50% of the time.
But it's a great thought. It's
a
the
good
team.
goal to have,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. But if you are the bid spotter and you do get there before the auctioneer and or MC, you get there first. Introduce yourself to leadership.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm Paul. I'm with Stokes Auction Group. I'm going to be your bid spotter tonight, and the guys are going to be here in 5 minutes, and then we'll do our meeting and whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would
you
concur.
agree with that?
I would concur. I actually say, instead of saying bid spotter, I say we're the auction team.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's even better.
I like that.
And Mark introduces us as the auction team. So they never know who, sometimes they're like, oh, are you the auctioneer? I'm like, no. But yeah.
That's a better way to say it.
Yeah, we're the
You're
auction
absolutely
team
right.
tonight. The rest of my team is just running a bit behind, or I'm a little early and we'll be here. And then sitting in with the meeting, that they get to sit in with the meeting, be a part of the pre-event.
Number 2, be a part of the meeting.
Number 2.
Pre-event meeting.
Always take a correction from your auctioneer.
That's not number 2. Number 2 is be a part of the meeting. So we have an auction meeting prior to connect. Well, yeah, in order to prepare for the event. So if you are there with ample time, you are part of that meeting.
Yeah.
And that way you can hear the transfer of information from contact to auctioneer.
Do not suggest anything that you haven't talked to with your auctioneer. It is basically his or her meeting. You are there to make sure you take great notes so that they also see you as a part of the team, but I interject all the time, but it's a little different. Do not interject.
Do as I say, not as I do.
No.
What I will say is, as a bid spotter walking into the situation, what you want to do is set up a framework to where you can succeed.
Yeah.
In other words, when you hear about doubles or minimums or anything else that could potentially mean more paperwork for you, the bid spotter, you need to be identifying those key points in this conversation.
Agreed.
And I do believe we missed something that is probably just something that we look at like, oh, that's a no-brainer. But when you get there, on your way into the venue, you're probably going to walk by the registration table. What do you need to get?
Catalogs.
Catalogs.
Yeah, that helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Always get catalogs. And that's actually bring those, and you can be, if you see they're available and you see that they're not too busy, the registration people, and you can bring those to the meeting. 9 times out of 10, they have them for us at the meeting, because they've highlighted what they want the auctioneer to say and do. And so.
My customers don't do that.
Yeah, well, we'll work on training your customers at the next podcast.
Train them up.
My customers don't have catalogs ready.
Number 3.
This is for me.
Yeah.
Train volunteers. So once you have that pre-event meeting, you're going to talk about where your volunteers are going to be set up and also what kind of training needs to take place before the event starts.
And make sure that you've met with your volunteer coordinator if they have one, because these people, they take that role very, very seriously. Please pay attention, Shelby, to the podcast. They take that role very seriously. Shelby. So you want to just make sure that you have come to them and said, if you need help with the training, I would love to be here to support you, or any questions that you might have. I'm here for you. Would you like me to be a part of that? So kind of insert yourself gently by sharing with that lead coordinator that you are there for them.
How about a situation where
we don't have time for situations. We're on a Go ahead.
we don't have time for hypotheticals
No,
today?
keep going. Go ahead.
What if they say, nope, we've got everything handled. We don't need any help.
Awesome. If at any time during the night you need some assistance, I'll be, by the front of the stage, or I'll be by the recorder's table. I'd love to help you. So great. If you've got it handled, awesome.
Would you still go by and look and see if
No, if that,
everything looks
oh yeah,
organized?
but I wouldn't show up to the volunteer meeting. I would let her her or him do the volunteer meeting, and then I would still do what isn't a part of the volunteer training, and that is I would check we'll get down to that because that's not on.
That's coming up next. Okay.
So,
And we've got recorders.
so let's
We got
start with
runners.
the stay on point. You boys, you are
Spotters.
definitely auctioneers. Number 4. Walk the room during your sound check so that you know that your auctioneer is heard all throughout the room. Super important. And introduce yourself to the audio people.
The audio people, yeah. I mean,
That's
you are,
a good idea.
Yeah.
and like
Really
it's a
good idea.
multifaceted experience there, right? When the sound check is going on, what you're looking for is like pain points that could potentially happen. So if the individual running the audio is very much writing the volume when your auctioneer is doing the sound check, it's probably a good opportunity they're going to continue to ride the audio. So connecting with that individual and saying, hey, I'm going to be coming over and relaying information from the presenters later
Yep.
in the night. That's a good way to lay track there. Also, if you have a sound system that's not all that strong, you're going to have to kind of change your game a little bit. In other words, if the audio is not going to be heard by the group or the attendees, you may have to communicate or be the communication liaison between auctioneer and number being asked.
Like if you're at a table and they can't hear, he's asking for $3,500.
Oh, right.
He's
That's a
asking
real
for
bad
he needs
situation.
$3,750. You know you're not on. You want to be on? So press
You're
that bed
out.
card. You're out. So yeah, because the audio people too. If you don't introduce yourself to them and you just go up and say, "Hey, he needs to be a little higher," or "Hey, he's a little tinny," they're gonna look at you like, "Who are you? Go away. What are you doing?" So that's number
Right.
4. Number 5.
You want to take that one? You want
I
me to
just
take
took
it?
4.
Get and build a bidders list. 2
Yes.
copies, one for the auctioneer and one for the MC. This is getting more challenging now because printers are sometimes not available, but essentially what we're looking for is some sort of way to thank the bidders as their bid numbers are presented over the course of the night. When you sell an item, you want to be able to say 145, thank you, John Doe. In order to get that set up and those pieces in place, more often than not, you have to stop by registration and ask for a printed sheet in numerical order, 100 through
Yep.
wherever you're running.
And you'll find out in your meeting if there is an anonymous donor or if there's a donor that's going to be there that wants to buy a high dollar item and they don't want to be recognized. Write that number down during the meeting on your notes so that when you get the bidders list, you can black that out for your auctioneer because they may not, in the heat of the moment, these guys got so much to deal with, they may not remember that was the guy that had an anonymous bid or that didn't want to be recognized at all that evening. So black that out with a black marker so that bidder number basically doesn't exist if you get that information in the meeting.
I think it's also important to consider what time you go and get that bidders list.
Yeah, you got to get it after registration because there's
Right.
always changes. So you've got maybe 10 minutes to build that list.
Yep. And that'd be a good question to ask whoever the registration lead is. Hey, has everybody checked in? Yep. Okay, can I get a bidders list now? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Rather than getting it at 4:30 or 5 o'clock
Right.
when not everybody's registered.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, if I get an early bidders list, they give me another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Almost every time they give me another one. That was number 5. Welcome to number 6.
Number 6. Okay. This is what I've always found very important and very, very helpful. If you have a dessert dash, you have heads and tails, you have a best of live raffle, a lot of the times we've got 100 tickets to sell, right? And we're going to try to sell them all during the silent auction. But if we don't sell them all during the silent auction, we're going to want to do a sweep from the stage, right? Who is responsible for this particular item tonight? Oh, well, that's Sally. Let me introduce you to her. Her volunteers, they have this bowl. I need the tickets when we open up the live
Yep.
auction. I need that to be there. And I also need to know how many tickets there are left to sell. And that same logic will apply with if you want to do like a mystery raffle. Like we had a raffle mystery box. That there was 100 boxes, 2 of them had prizes in them, and we didn't sell them all. You have to sell all 100 of them because there's 2 of them that have a prize.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the smoothest thing in the world, but audio was definitely an issue. But figure out who that person is, because generally somebody is assigned to that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Sally, we're going to start the live auction in 10 minutes. How many tickets do we got left? Okay, we've sold 85. We got 15 of them to go.
And in that
Okay.
particular situation, you know that you have to sell all 100, but let's
Yeah.
say it's a heads and tails or a blinky ring for best alive or any of those things, golden tickets, things like that. Make sure you ask your leadership through your auctioneer, say, hey, what do you think? Do you think I should go, make sure your auctioneer knows what you're doing, because you don't want them to be surprised by it either. So ask your leadership, if we only sold this many, do you want to do a sweep? Which ones do you want to do a sweep for? Well, we need to get at least 80%, Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then I know that I'm good with that, and I got permission from the leadership, so.
So I know we kind of like danced around that a little bit. I take this note to be, you help the timeline move forward. Like if you see that the dessert dash forms are going to be picked up in 2 items, you may want to say, "Hey, make a quick announcement about those being
Right.
picked up." Or if you have a raffle being pulled, make sure that those tickets are there to be drawn. Whatever is coming, like 2 or 3 items from where you currently are, be one step ahead of that show. Because what's going to happen is your MC and your auctioneer or host is basically going to be like, "Okay, now we got to do the drawing. Where's that drawing at?" And I had this happen to me like 2
Exactly.
Saturdays ago.
Really?
And I can't even blame the team. Like it wasn't even our fault. What happened was the MC that I had started a half an hour before we were supposed to start. So we thought we still had like 30 minutes to get those tickets in line, and we didn't. But ultimately, like you can help manage timeline as a bid spotter by being one step ahead of everybody.
That's a really great way to describe it, too.
It
You're a
is.
step ahead.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
And, yes, you're there to spot bids, but you are there to make this night flow for your auctioneer and MC. They've got so much that they're thinking about. You got to be the back of the house on that.
Let's wrap back to that. What is the function of a bid spotter? I think we'll hit that right at the end.
Yeah.
Let's go to number 7.
Number 7. Is this you or me?
This is your turn.
This is me. Fill out a catalog. So you have lots going on. I'm aware of that. If you're a top quality bid spotter, which all of you are, I know, but you always want to be better. The best bid spotters need to try to be better. And the way that you can be better is by putting a catalog together for your auctioneer that they can write a report on for the customer. That report is not for that auctioneer. It is for that customer to grow their auction, which also has us back. It is there to make sure they have all the information that they can have to say, hey, your heads and tails went like 15 minutes and we were already back. So maybe we need to think about something different. Maybe we need to limit the heads and tails to 2 or something, any little tidbit that you can give them in your catalog, what time it started. Every other page, I don't do it every page, every other page, write down a time. That way he or she knows that he's clicking along at 3.5, 5 minutes, staying right in that sweet spot of selling items. That way it can't come back on them if it is over, if the auction has ran long. That's really important information for them to have. The dessert dash, really important to find out how long that took. Frenzies. Those are really important because sometimes you'll get a restaurant frenzy that's $15, $25 gift certificate somewhere. If that thing takes 15 minutes, that's another place where you could tell them, hey, shorten that up. Maybe get, 7 restaurant frenzy things. So any little extra tidbit that you can give to your auctioneer to make that night run perfect or as close to perfect as you can, that's where that catalog comes into play. And also a fund-a-need. We have got to keep fund-a-needs. Those are ultimately the most important thing to record. And I know it can get tough. I just had an auction last weekend with my husband where we had 102 people at the $1,000 level.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
So your hand's going to cramp at about, 72. Just keep
Wow.
going. If you missed that bid number, put a tick there because then
That's
you
4
know.
sheets.
Yeah. Well, that's actually if you
30,
well,
60,
and on your
90.
funded need form, if you want to keep your form small, cut those columns in half. The Bulldog taught me that years ago. Best bid spotter in history, and Larry Purdy. You know, write on one half of your column, come back up and write on the second half of your column, and then start another sheet. And keep your writing as clear as possible. I'm the worst at having a clear catalog, but it's an informational catalog. I can tell you that.
Informational but not readable. Is that what you're saying?
It's legible,
It's
but he's also,
legible.
yeah, it's legible.
Yeah.
But
And also extra credit if you see like opportunities or you see like potential opportunities for growth or success in the future, write those in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because as I'm going through these events, I'm like, oh, well, silents are too crowded. And lo
Right.
and behold, when I'm writing that report a day and a half later, I will never remember it unless I see that note.
Yeah.
So,
sound was edgy. Could have used a confidence monitor at the recorder's table, right? Because
Oh,
the
yeah.
recorders couldn't hear. So these are all things that you can write in there, which we just wrote in this last report.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't hear. So I would have to go back to them every item and say it sold for 3,500,
Oh,
bidder
no.
426. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
any
those are the little
information,
things. Mm-hmm.
even the littlest thing.
Yeah.
Like item 2 for me Saturday, this is an auction that's going to do 200 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
This thing's rolling. It's doing really good.
Yeah.
We kicked off the first item, sold it for 4 grand. Second item was this oil can guitar, a homemade guitar out of an oil can, and the music teacher came up and played it. Had
Oh,
their
wow.
amp there
Yeah.
and played it, but played the entire song.
Took too long.
Too long.
Yep.
I come out of the gate strong. Sold 4 grand. Here comes this guitar. The first chorus, the first verse and the first chorus, he had them. When he went into the second verse,
They were done.
they're like, okay, we've heard enough. It sounds good. You're
Yeah.
good. We get it. And he's singing too. But it was just too long.
Right.
So item 3, I felt like I'm starting the whole auction over again.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a little note. Too long. Played too long. Or little things like that. Like you both have
Yeah.
mentioned. If something comes to mind, don't be afraid to write it down.
Yeah, they'll either disregard it or not, but you never know if it's not going to be that one important piece that these guys and gals need to make a solid report, to grow the auction, as well as keep your value as the ringman. I like the word ringman. I know we're professional bid spotters, but I mean, come on, I love ringman. As a
Ring person.
but you know, if your auctioneer sees that you're doing all this for them, they're going to want to have you with them.
Yeah.
They are, and
That's
so
partly why I wanted to bring this up today, was because I've had some absolutely stellar, awesome catalogs this spring so far.
and it
Nice.
matters.
And last fall.
Yeah.
Matters.
Every single one of all the guys that I've worked with have been stellar.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
cool.
And
awesome.
So it's
Yay.
we're not talking about this because it's not happening.
Yeah.
We're talking about it because it is.
Right.
And let's get down to the final little more finite details
Yeah.
of it.
As well as we should talk about this every 3 months anyway, because you get into the season and it's not that you get lazy, but you get complacent, possibly.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to not ever get complacent as the person that is recording stuff for your auctioneer.
Yeah.
That was item number 7.
Fill out a catalog. Item number 8. Stay.
You want me to help you with
Yeah,
this?
you do this
This
one.
is Kelly.
This is you.
Yeah.
If your auctioneer knows where the money is, you should not be where that money is. He already knows. She already knows.
Most of the time they know.
Most of the time.
Sometimes you need a reminder.
But you know, that,
Where am I at again?
but if it's obvious, if that auctioneer is working
Yeah.
that person, I'm talking a table away and the eye contact has been made, that's
Yeah.
very different. And that's really what I'm talking about. And I know it's exciting and I know you want to be a part of it. I do too. But my job, I believe, is if he's already got that, I need to be finding him some competition in the room. I need to be out there encouraging the other people to bid to give that guy that the auctioneer is on competition. So stay away from your auctioneer's person. If they have made eye contact, you know they've made contact, and it's clear that he or she is communicating with that bidder.
Now you're talking a situation where the auctioneer is off the stage.
Yeah.
and walks out to that bidder
Mm-hmm.
and is standing in the vicinity of that bidder.
They don't need their bid
Don't be
spotter right
right
behind
there
them.
with
No.
me. Be elsewhere.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because 9 times out of 10, there will be a bid over there.
Gotcha.
And if you're the only bid spotter, that's a problem. If you got a team, it's not as much of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful.
Number 10.
Number 10. Say goodbye.
Me, you, me. Yeah.
All of us.
Say
As
goodbye.
a team.
Yeah.
Say goodbye as
Yeah.
a team to your leadership. If you got somewhere to go and you're up against a clock, or you have a babysitter issue, or you've got something going on, or you've just ripped a hole in your pants, whatever, tell your auctioneer before you leave that you're leaving, number 1. But try to stay with the team until the end of the night, because you came in as a team, you need to go out as a team.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like you can also take this to be, definitely check out at the end of the night with leadership. But I think also over the course of the night, I would suggest checking in with leadership
Yep.
as like the lead bid spotter.
Oh, that's a great
And
point,
essentially
dude.
what you're doing is you're taking a temperature check
Yep.
with your chair or main contact. And the goal of that is essentially release any pressure or stress that's been caused over the course of the night. In other words, if the auctioneer screws up the first item and you can get the chair to like communicate through that first item, there's a lot better chance you're going to leave there with good feelings. Alternatively, if you let that fester and harbor
Yep.
from that main contact person, that's going to grow into some resentment over time. That auctioneer should have done X, Y, and Z. If you can get ahead of that prior to leaving that night, you're going to be way
That's
better
a
off.
great idea.
As well as, is his pace okay? Because, they know their community better than anybody. So is his pace okay? Is her pace okay? Is he going too fast? Do you want him to speed up? All of those things,
Yeah.
and I do it about every third item, to be honest with you.
What is it what is the exact phrase you say? What do you, when you walk up to a chair at item 5, after we've started, what do you say?
How do you feel?
Okay.
How do you feel? How's it going? Are you
How's it
feeling
going?
good?
How you doing?
Yeah, and she
How
goes,
are we
no, it's
doing?
fine.
How-
How's his pace? I follow it with how's his pace. Are you pleased with how his pace is? And that
Okay.
because Mark wants to know that. So I can go back to Mark and say, buddy, you got to slow it down a little bit, and you got to talk to him a little more. And then he'll realize it, and he'll slow it down a little bit. Or, hey, they're worried about time. He'll spit and get and go.
Gotcha.
But he has no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
So that's
And also you have the benefit of getting the unfiltered like feedback as the
Yeah.
bid spotter, because I normally try to make my way in
Mm-hmm.
and ask at some point if I'm like standing on the floor, but you don't always get the real answer. You get you're doing great. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, that does not help me at all. Like that,
yeah.
I know I'm doing great. Okay.
I am an auctioneer.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me something I can work with. No, but in all seriousness, like checking in with staff, like over the course of the night, and then definitely at the end of the night. And that way you are also allowing yourself the opportunity to update them on what has happened over the course of the night. In other words, if you have something that did not go as planned, you can say, hey, this is how this played out. I had a triple opportunity this Saturday. I was not able to succeed on it. And I had to communicate that at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are hard to communicate, right? But you gotta be honest about it, and you just communicate about it, so it doesn't, like you said, burrow and resentment and
Yeah, for
you
sure.
explain to them what happened. One thing we missed, that in the meeting, if there are double possibilities, try to find out and obviously communicate with your auctioneer, because he or she is the one that's under the gun on the mic up on the stage, right? So your job is to try to make that as seamless as possible for them. So if you know that this item is going to be doubled potentially, find out what number leadership is comfortable with that being doubled at. That doesn't mean that's where we're going to double it. Hopefully we're going to double it a lot higher than that. But find out what number, and your auctioneer may ask that. If not, ask your auctioneer if he has that information after the meeting, and find out what table the donor is at. Because one of the things that kind of holds your value too as a ringman, in my opinion, is, and I did say in my opinion, is you could go around back. Let's say it's an item that they said double it at $7,000. He's going to get there by the vibe of the room. He's coming up on that $7,000. The donor's at table 29. So you go and you say, hey, if he gets to X, Y, and Z, is this something you'd be willing to double? No pressure, Just curious if that's something you'd be willing to double. Even though they already told leadership that it could be doubled, bring them in on it, you know? Because my auctioneer, he's my little auctioneer, isn't he? My little
He's
auctioneer.
a big auctioneer.
He's a big boy.
Big auctioneer.
He will always make it look organic because it feels good for the donor that way. And you want to always make your donor feel good. So if you know what tabler they're at and you know you're getting close to the number, go down there, give your auctioneer a sign that, yep, we're going to do it twice. And that way he knows when he asks Joe to stand up that the answer is yes. Because there's been times where you get a double and you go to them and they say no. And in the meeting they said you could. So you're saving. That's happened to us quite a bit.
Ooh, mercy.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you go through this list of like the top 10 things for bid spotters to do, and it's kind of a blend of like best practices to avoid conflict, but you're also taking stress off of the auctioneer's plate. Like each one of these 10 different factoids is going to push you into making sure that there isn't a problem area, right? We talked about sound, that could go haywire. Recording, that can go haywire after the fact. You know, like each one of these 10 is essentially a way that you as a bid spotter or support person can push into directions to find solutions before the train starts coming down the tracks.
Yep.
And I really think that many of the bid spotters that I'm working with right now want to be auctioneers one day or are auctioneers in their own right. And essentially what you're doing is you are helping problem solve for yourself down the road.
Yep.
If you know how to address some of these scenarios before they play out, you're going to have a smoother night overall. So if you distill like what a bid spotter's role is, it's to be a support person, the second in command, but it's also to see around corners and make sure the event goes off without a hitch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anticipate.
Yeah.
You never know. Anticipate.
Anticipation.
Just try to. I love your suggestion of think 1-2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
You know, because you can put a lot of fires before they even start.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't know they're fires sometime until they're already burning. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's it. Well, that was a good episode, folks. Our goal was to get through 10 of those in a timely manner, and we did get through 10 of them, and I think it was a pretty good clip.
Yeah,
So
I think
if you
so too.
have more questions or concerns or you want more clarity on any of these items, reach out and let us know.
Yeah. Be the best that you can be, man. Make the organization grow. That's your goal.
Yeah, for sure.
We have the best group of bid spotters out there.
Absolutely.
This
Top
is no indication of why
shelf.
we're talking about
Top
this.
shelf.
Yeah,
Top
this is
shelf.
We all need reminders, and you know that's the reason why we're doing it. Because when you collaborate with more people, that's the more information you have,
Yeah,
more education, and more experience.
yeah. And as we go through those, I'm just thinking to myself, oh man, we should probably work with some of our less experienced people a little bit more on this stuff. Because I don't know
Agreed.
that I covered all these items with some of the newer guys and gals. But I mean, here we are. So ever onward, ever forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, cool.
So that's it.
That's it.
All
We're
right.
done. Hey,
We're done. Keep your heart right and your vision clear.
Go do good.
Oh, no, you're supposed to do that last. Hang on. Keep your heart right and your vision clear.
go be you.
And go do good. Yes. Ciao.
Later, gang.
Bye.